Two AIs, same tasks, no excuses. Which one ships better front-end code? ChatGPT or Claude? Let's find out. In my previous video, I tested GPT-5 with some front-end related tasks, but today I want to compare it with Claude. I will give totally the same tasks to GPT-5 and Claude, and then we will compare which one performs better. In my day-to-day coding, I actually prefer Claude, but now with new release of GPT-5, I'm very curious to compare which one is better now. In one of my previous videos, I already explained that I used GPT for generating prompts and explanations to Claude, and then I used Claude to generate code. And that worked perfectly for me. But now, probably with new release from OpenAI, this approach will change. So let's see. Since my last video on the channel, OpenAI already did some updates to ChatGPT, and actually one of that related to the point I mentioned in my video. It's selection of the model. As you remember, we had before here GPT Normal, GPT Thinking, and Pro. But now we have some other things to select. Default we have Auto, also we have Fast for instant answers. We have still that Thinking, we still that have Pro, but the most important thing, we have that legacy models, and here we have GPT-4o, which I actually loved for my day-to-day tasks and conversations. But for today's tests, we're gonna use this Auto. And let's start with a pretty simple prompt with minimum context, and that's gonna be generate a production-ready searchable list. The list should contain 10,000 records with the names of random cities. Use React. That's it. So let's see how it performs. Okay, Claude straight to the point, started to generate the list. And GPT still thinking. Okay, GPT spent 23 seconds to think, so let's see. Okay, so Claude finished to generate and GPT is still generating code. So Claude was much faster, and we have already interactive artifact here, and GPT stopped generating. Perfect, so let's go first through Claude output. What Claude created: performance optimizations, virtualization, perfect. Memoized filtering, perfect. Debound search, perfect. And React memo prevents unnecessary. Yes, that's perfect. Features, real-time search, highlight matching text, population data, geographic diversity, cities from 50 plus countries and regions. That's okay. That's hard-coded data. Responsive design, that's important. Empty state, proper handling when no results are found, perfect. Data generation. Okay, UI, UX, clean search interface with search icon. Okay, that's perfect. So we can browse interface here. I like the design, it's pretty simple. And also there are some numbers explaining the, I guess, the population of the cities. That's perfect. That's very cool. And scrolling is perfect, it's smooth. That's because of virtualization. Awesome. Let's try now to search. Let's find like Barnes or something. Perfect, it highlights matching strings. If we type royal and space, okay, that's perfect. That's perfect. All work as expected. In terms of code, high level, it looks okay. Of course, I need to spend more time to review it and analyze it. I'm not gonna do that now. But yeah, the code works, the app works. That's what we actually wanted from Claude. So now let's take a look what ChatGPT generated. And the one thing what I already can mention, that Claude gave us this interactive artifact, so we can take a look at the app straight away. And GPT just generated plenty of code and commands how to run it. So we basically need to copy paste it to IDE and then test it. Okay, but anyway, let's take a look at the output first. So one by one, it gave us first a package.json with all dependencies, then index.html file, which is actually not needed because it is pretty generic in React applications. Then we have main.jsx as well. It's not needed, it's pretty generic. And then we have app.jsx. And here we have some logic. We have input here with the search, and we have button. Then we have city list component here and some generic footer. After that, we have that city list component here. Here we have row memoized. I don't like that syntax, to be honest. Okay, let's move forward. Then we have list components with the row. Okay. Then we have city data.js. This part looks very weird, to be honest. I don't think so that is needed in this case. Okay, then we have that generate city data. Okay. Then we have some regex, which is again, in this case, I'm not sure is needed. Then we have debounce as a hook, use debounce. That's okay for now. So we have also some styles description. And then commands to run it locally. So, okay, so ChatGPT cannot provide us with this interactive artifact. So we need to copy this code to IDE and run it from there. So let's do it now. And here is the list generated by ChatGPT. It looks nice, I have to admit. The design is good. Only this thing is not actually readable, and from the first side, I don't understand what does that mean. And for example, in Claude version, we have here a population numbers, which is more interesting, I guess, for the user to see. So let's try to scroll it. So we see that scroll also pretty smooth. So it works good. Now let's try to search. And we see that it also has this highlighting. Let's put more, and we see that ChatGPT forgot to add empty state page in case if no records found. In Claude version it is here, so we have the message that no city is found, but here it is just empty. In conclusion, Claude covered more cases and, as for my opinion, developed better search list. So my point is going to Claude. As for my opinion, Claude delivered more clean and simple code, and ChatGPT adds some very complex helper functions, which is actually difficult to read, and it's gonna be quite difficult to maintain it in future. And another thing, we type the prompt in Claude and we get interactive application, so we just can test the result. But with ChatGPT, we need to copy, we need to create new React project and copy that code there and then run it to see the output. So that's why in this case, I would prefer Claude. Now let's try how these AI models will cope with debugging. I will provide to both models a piece of very bad code in terms of performance, and I will ask models to suggest improvements to it. And let's see how they will perform. Here is that code. As you see here, we have large operations with here like 20,000 items. Then we have some heavy calculations here like that. That part in terms of performance is very heavy, and as well this part. Then we have pretty interesting filtering and sorting here. Also, we have that use layout effect here, which actually blocks rendering. And here we will trigger some reflows on each render. And also we have this part which prevents tailwind caching. So let's see what AI models will suggest us to change here. I have renamed this function to calc because it was given actually a hint to model that it is some heavy calculation, and it's supposed to do something with that. So let's name it just calc. I pasted this code here and I wrote a prompt. For some reason, my app works very slowly. Can you tell me why and what improvements should be made? Let's try to run it. And we see that Claude again first here. And we see that Claude again tries to generate interactive artifact, and here is it. Let's read what he outputs. So expensive calculations on every render. That's correct. Extremely expensive sorting. Correct. DOM manipulation on every render. That's good that he spotted that. And here he adds some comments explaining that queries and modifies all DOM elements every render. Then here he mentioned that forces layout recalculation, and here more DOM manipulations run constantly due to tick updates. That's correct. And also this point is good. A random keys break in React recalculation. And here he wrote a comment forces complete re-render of every item. That's good. That's good that he spotted that. So then he wrote some suggestions. Pre-calculated expensive operations, that's good. Eliminated expensive sorting. The 1000 iteration sort comparison is now pre-calculated and stored as sort key, that's good. Remove DOM manipulation, replaced use layout effect DOM queries with simple CSS calculations that don't force layout recalculations. Stable React keys, that's good. Memoized filtering, perfect. Limited initial render, only showing 1000 items initially to improve first render performance, good. And memoized components, use callback for the raw component to prevent unnecessary re-renders, that's good. So before we had OON squared time complexity, and after Claude says to us that it is OON. Let's take a look quickly at the code. Now there are less code, it is more organized. There are some use memoization, and some inline styles. Let's take a look now at ChatGPT. So ChatGPT also telling us about heavy calculation and also mentioning about this thrashing with use layout effect. Also he spotted that issue with keys, re-rendering 20,000 DOM nodes. Overusing will change, applying will change transform to thousands of elements can hurt performance and memory. That's good that he spotted that, but Claude didn't say about this anything. Also, ChatGPT mentioned about virtualize the list. That's good, and Claude didn't mention that here. Then we have memoize and cache work. That's cool, that's expected. The same Claude did. Delete use layout effect, that's what actually Claude did as well. Improved keys, remove will change from every row. ChatGPT suggested us to create separate component with the virtual list. And here is a quick checklist what have to be improved. In conclusion, I like the output of ChatGPT more than Claude because ChatGPT gave a better explanation and ChatGPT spotted more issues. I've tried both updated examples of the code. This one is made by ChatGPT and here is by Claude. And what I noticed that ChatGPT works perfect, so it's pretty smooth, and you see what is happening with Claude. So it runs to infinite re-renders once you try to search. So Claude wasn't so successful with this task. I know that my example was pretty simple in terms of that it is not even close to any of a real world scenario because it was packed with a bad functionality, and as we see, Claude didn't perform good here, but in the same time ChatGPT was pretty successful with that. And let's try the last task for AIs, and it's gonna be a pretty fun one. I will ask both models just to generate for me tic-tac-toe game. And that will be the prompt, generate tic-tac-toe game using vanilla.js. Let me run it here and play. So here I will not specify any other context. So let's see how they will generate it, what kind of design it will have, and whether the functionality will work, whether I can really play it here. Let's try it. So again, we see that Claude went straight to the point and started to generate code. And ChatGPT is still designing the game. Both are done generating, so Claude prepared for us already that interactive artifact, and there is no such a thing from ChatGPT. And it is interesting because before I was asking him to generate different like landing pages like it was in my previous video, and it was generating also this interactive artifact. So probably I'm missing something in terms of settings now. Maybe because of that temporary chart selected, because I didn't want ChatGPT to know the context of the tasks I'm gonna ask him to do. But anyway, I can copy paste it in IDEA and see. Let's take a look what Claude generated. So as we see the design, it looks pretty cool, but the layout is not so good. This part doesn't have proper spacing, and here we have huge padding for some reason, I don't know why. But in general, the background looks nice, and the card with the tic-tac-toe game also looks cool. Let's try to play it. Let's click here. Okay, now let's click here, then here, then here, and let's try win the game. Okay, perfect. There is some cool animations with a winning. So player X have won now. New game. What if we play like that? Okay, and here it is draw. So perfect. And now let's try another way. Okay, now all results are updated. Perfect. So, okay, it works as expected, and Claude coped with this task in a pretty decent level. Just only some layout issues is here. And that's the result of ChatGPT, and actually I love that design more than the Claude ones. It looks more clean. And as we see, there are some selects here, so we can select whether we can play computer, unbeatable, computer easy, and human. That's very cool design of the game. I love it. You play as X or O, so you can actually select. That's very good. Actually, Claude didn't suggest such an option. So let's try. Okay, so I'm playing against unbeatable computer. Okay, we played draw. Let's try computer easy. Okay, that was really easy. And let's try human, same device. Okay, so basically that's the same. So we have scores here, reset board. Okay, perfect. And new match. Okay, so basically ChatGPT did it perfectly. Nice design, nice actual design of the game itself. It gives us option to play against the computer and play against another human. We can select with which one we start, X or O. We have perfect store of the scores and we can reset it, which is actually wasn't made in Claude. So my point goes here to ChatGPT. Well done. In my comparison, ChatGPT won today, and actually I'm pretty impressed because, as I mentioned, I used before ChatGPT to generate that perfect prompts to Claude, and Claude was performing code writing. Now I will pay more attention to ChatGPT and try more experiments with coding with ChatGPT. And also I have to mention that I used Claude 4 model. There is another one for 1 which is more powerful, and I think it will perform much better, but you can also compare yourself. That's it for today. I hope this video was helpful, and let me know in the comments which one do you prefer, ChatGPT or Claude. Happy coding with AI, and see you in the next one.